hate my voice.
Fucking hate my voice.
Everyone hates their own voice, don't they? Right?
Of course they do. I hate my own voice. I hate the sound of it. It is what it is. You just got to ride with it.
Apart from me, you're listening to the Everyone But Us podcast, straight from the heart of London.
Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome to episode 18 of the Everyone But Us podcast, our first official episode of 2020. My name is Waymer.
My name is Stephen.
And my name is Lewis.
Make some motherfucking noise, please. 2020. Let's have it. Well, I'm going to go straight into it. We have a very special guest in the building.
Another special guest.
Another one.
Yeah.
Always a special guest, like. Always special guest. Why can't they just extraordinary or...
Extraordinary guest then, all right?
Do you know what it is? It's this everyone wins a trophy generation, isn't it?
He's like thinking, what the fuck's going on here?
Well, I was just wondering if like special guest is like special when you know your cousin Eddie's a bit special and you have to talk slow.
I don't know. I met this gentleman back in 1996. He played an integral role in helping build the northern hardcore scene during the mid-90s. He was straight edge way before Lewis lost his virginity. True. That's actually a fact.
True.
That's
So he's been straight edge for 1 week. Yeah. All right. He's an architect of Sweatfest and now works as a road manager for some very interesting bands, which we'll delve into later. So would you like to announce the name of our guest?
It is Sheep X. That's how I remember
Sheep
him.
X, man. Sheep
X.
How are you doing, my brother?
the X's are very important. You can't forget that.
Of course, I definitely can't forget that.
I'm good, mate. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm like really thankful that you've taken the time to come down here and have a chat with us, man. We really appreciate it, man.
We've been trying to make it work for a while, and here we go.
Here we go, man. And like a true friend, he came down.
Your people talk to my people, and we managed to make the schedule work.
It was a lot of money, but we think you're worth it, man.
Yeah, that's
was
it,
it £2.50, wasn't it?
Something like that, yeah. And a lion bar. Actually, no, can't be a lion bar because it's.
Lion bars.
Yeah, it's not vegan, so you
Packet,
can't have the
packet.
Oh, yeah, shit.
We'll change it for something else.
A tracker.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not even a tracker.
Can't have a tracker either,
Shit.
mate. Right, let's just leave it.
Yeah.
Let's leave off the snacks for now.
We'll leave that for later on.
We'll Google some.
But before we get into it, man, let's loosen up here. How's everyone doing? It's a new year, 2020. Happy New Year.
Yeah, happy New Year.
Yeah.
I rang in the new year by throwing up for 12 hours straight. That was
What alcohol was it? You didn't break head.
No, I got some kind of stomach bug. It was going round, and
Oh, that sucks, man.
really ill. But yeah, it's been alright since then. Start on a low and only up from there.
Oh, that sucks, man. Hey, what about you, gentlemen? Anything good?
I rang in the new year by trying to stay awake on the couch at home.
That's what happens when you get older, man. The couch becomes your New Year's Eve party, doesn't it?
Well, the thing is, New Year's Eve's the worst fucking night of the year.
Why?
It's terrible, man.
I mean,
it's
kinda
shit.
is.
Every
It's
dickhead who don't
overrated.
drink is out.
You think so?
Right, so nobody who can hold their fucking alcohol is out. You're 6 deep at the bar, so you can't get a fucking drink, and then you can't get home afterwards. It's a load of fucking shit.
Well, at least it's free to get home on the tube and all that, right?
Yeah, true.
No, but
Silver
do you know
linings.
what? The biggest knockoff is having to pay to watch them fireworks.
Yeah, they've changed.
Right.
They've changed it now. Yeah, because before you could just go down there, like, because when I was younger, when I was like how old? About 16, 17, around them ages. And that we used to all just go down there and just be drinking cider and smoking fucking little shitty cigars and shit. You can just go down there. People climbing up lampposts and everything. But now you got to get tickets in advance because obviously we live in different times now, innit? Like security.
Yeah, but you
and all
can
that.
see a firework from literally 2 miles away. So
These
why
are-
would you pay
these
to
are the
fucking?
Yeah, it's true.
It depends
It's
on the
true.
vantage point where you got to go to. If you go to Alexandra Palace or Primrose Hill or something like that, of course
If you're
you
a
can see it.
sniper,
Where I live, we could see the fireworks going up. We could hear them fucking really loud, and we could see them reflected in another block of flats over the road. Just in the windows.
That is peak lazy. If you couldn't even be bothered to walk around the corner and watch them.
I know.
No, it's like 2 miles up the road, but
Where I live now, right, my neighbour every year he gets fireworks. He gets buy some fireworks and does it from his garden. I'm like, this guy's paying for my entertainment. Do you know what I mean? Like, why would I
Sucker.
pay to get fireworks when I know this dude's gonna like
Some people
do
just-
it every year and I can just watch his shit for
If you're,
free? Do you know
by
what I
the
mean?
way, if you're Wayman's next door neighbour and you're listening to this, you're a sucker. Straight from Wayman's mouth.
Oh, get some better fireworks. You said the shit.
Yeah.
All right. So for those that don't know, Sheep man, he's before we get into it, he's into skydiving. Have you done any skydives for in 2020 yet, or have you got any plans?
No, I've only just got back home yesterday. I've been away for the first part of the year. I've actually.
What do you do? What do you get locked up for?
Yeah, I've not actually jumped for a minute. I had busy year last year. Moved back to England from Germany, so I've didn't actually do any jumps last year either. So I'm a bit behind
You
on
didn't
it.
do no jumps last year.
Nah, I didn't have time. I was a busy man. I was
You're a
just
busy
earning
man.
money, you know. So I need to rectify that.
Well, how did you get into the whole skydiving thing? Have you guys ever thought about skydiving?
You know what?
Hell no.
Like, I know Baptiste's done it.
Oh,
No,
we're
Lynn-
Baptiste from Belgium.
Lynn, Vega Lynn, she obviously is, does a lot of skydiving and stuff. She's been doing it for years. I'm not sure
Yeah.
she does it anymore, but I know she's into it. But for me personally,
Never.
it's something that I would want to do, but at the same time, I'm like, you're fucking crazy, Sheep, man. Seriously, that shit's fucking scary.
Well, I feel like it's just like some people want to do it, and some people just, you know, like I've always wanted to do it. Like you see a video, and I was like, "Oh, looks fucking right, cool." Sign me up. But obviously, it's really expensive, so I didn't have money to fucking eat for.
Yeah, how much is it on average? Like
Well, once you've got your license and you've got all your own gear and that, it's like 20-25 quid a jump.
okay,
So it's not like ridiculous, but getting to the point where you've got your own gear and getting your license, that costs a fair wedge as
gonna
well.
be getting to the
It's
thousands
not a
and
cheap
shit.
hobby.
Yeah.
It's not like five-a-side on the weekend, you know.
yeah, definitely not.
But yeah, it costs a bit. So once I'd like had enough money, I was earning enough, and I thought, I can afford to do this now, and I did, and I've been doing it since.
That's pretty cool.
Not as much as I'd like, but
I got a question. Is it better than sex?
depends who the sex is with.
So take your current partner out of it. Is it better than?
Oh, current partner is Rosie Palmer and her 5 daughters, so yeah. Definitely better than that. It's
What's it
like
feel like? Yeah.
well, I mean, it's
What, sex?
Yeah. What is it?
it's well, it feels like falling. I mean,
Yeah,
The thing is, it's not just a
See, that's
falling
the bit
aspect.
that I don't like.
Yeah.
It's a sport in a sense. It's not just falling. Like it's not that hard to just fall in a straight line, but there's lots of different disciplines, you know, involved in it, like trying to fly in a certain way or fall or whatever. So like first you start learning and you fall out of a plane and you get stoked when you first few jumps is sort of sensory overload and you're like, wow, I just fell 13,000 feet, that's pretty mental.
That's
And then
insane, man.
after that you start learning, trying to do stuff, you know, and every time you manage to learn something new, it's just like, you know, you do a jump with a few other people and you've got a plan and you're going to do this, that and the other, and then you don't fuck it up and you like manage to do it. That just the high you get from that, you're like, mint. It's just so good. Like, and then every time you like learn a new discipline like wingsuiting or base jumping or any of that stuff, it's just like, it's all the adrenaline you get from like, you know, like falling out of a plane, risking your life, but also the achievement of managing to do what you was trying to do, you know.
Have you ever had any like close calls?
Definitely nearly killed myself base jumping one time. I had
Base jumping, man.
Fucking that's right.
so
That's when you just run and just jump off the like.
a cliff or
or-
a building or a bridge or
Oh, yeah.
whatever.
Is this
An
illegal
antenna.
or illegal base jumping? By the way.
I've done both.
Oh, really?
Well, it all depends on the local laws where you are. Like, there are some
Fucking
places
hell.
you can jump where it's not against the law, but in a lot of places it is.
You see that clip recently of that dude where there's those roadmans filming and he just jumps out of the block of flats.
Oh,
like,
yeah, it's
on the road. My man's gonna do
Aye.
a base jump.
That was in London somewhere, right? It was like a
Yeah.
council estate block.
Yeah.
And some
Jumped
dude
out of
just
the block.
jumped
Just
off.
jumps off his balcony, didn't he?
Done a base jump. It's
Yeah.
like,
There was another one. What's that tower just near Liverpool Street? It's got a restaurant at the top. Begins with Q.
The new building.
Yeah, it's quite high. But when it was being built, someone jumped off that. That was on the
Yeah,
news.
they jumped the Shard as well.
The Shard.
Yeah, I got jumped.
That's insane, man. Like,
there's a lot of research goes into jumping some of the big places. Like I've not done anything mad like that. I've just done like bridges, cliffs, and antenna and stuff
jumped
like
off a
curb. They jumped. Some guys jumped the World Trade Center when it was being built, the new one.
Holy shit!
And they didn't. Because the thing, you can't really tell people you've done it if you're doing an illegal one. You post the videos everywhere. You run the risk of law enforcement tracking you down, but also you blow up the spot. They realise people have been jumping, they tighten security, no one else can jump it. So they jumped it, didn't tell anyone, no one knew they'd done it until like a year or two later when someone else got busted and it ended up coming out, and then once they got nicked for it, they're like, well, we've been nicked for it, so they put the footage up online, but no one knew they'd done it for ages.
I ain't gonna lie, right? If I jump off a building, I want every motherfucker in the world to see it, man. I'm gonna be like, hey, look at it. I'm not keeping that shit to myself, man.
You're getting straight.
Everyone needs to know.
Of course I know. Someone's going to post it on World Star when you hit the concrete.
Yeah. World Star.
I don't want people to see me jumping off a building because I will piss my pants on the way down. And when I reach the bottom, I'm going to have a big wet patch in my jeans. It's not for me.
You'll piss yourself before you jump, probably. If you're jumping off a building, it's not going to be that big of a jump. Unless you go like Dubai and do one of them really big ones.
I wouldn't do it in Dubai, man. They'll chop your hands off and lock you up for like...
Actually, no.
No?
They're really pro base jumping in Dubai.
Oh, really?
Oddly. And I think... Well, my own personal thing is I think it's because Dubai's trying to attract tourism, and it's because it's a new city. It doesn't have like history or this kind of urban culture. It's just this new soulless concrete jungle.
So it's like,
So the loads of people, they have like base jumping events and stuff. They had 2 wingsuiters jumping off the Burj Khalifa and spinning around it in wingsuits.
fuck.
Is that one with the pad, the helicopter pad on top?
The tallest building in the world.
Oh, yeah.
They had to get special permission in that because the prince owns like the top bit of it or whatever, and there's all this kind of stuff. Like, but yeah, there's loads of base jumping going on in Dubai. Weirdly,
It's fucked.
Did you ever watch that documentary about? It was a guy that was a sergeant, and he was having an affair, and he arranged to jump for his wife.
Yeah, he cut his wings.
Fuck, yes, I did.
That was at Netheravon. Yeah, I've jumped at that drop zone. I don't know how he thought he was going to get away with it.
Didn't he get?
Let's give the backstory. So yeah, go on.
You actually. I can't remember it exactly, but I do remember the outcome. It was like
he basically
got tried.
Yeah,
he, got found not guilty or something, and then they went back for another trial. Then he got found guilty. Is that it?
Yeah, he got sent down for it.
Yeah, he got sent down for it in the end.
So for the people that don't know, he arranged a jump for his wife, and then he rigged the main parachute and what do you call it?
The reserve chute. Yeah.
He cut knots in it or something, and then she's tried to pull it.
It's not hard to rig it to not open if you know what you're doing.
Didn't she fall into like a?
Sound like a massive experience.
Yeah, she survived. She survived. Yeah, which is.
Do you know how lucky she was?
She still wanted to be with him or something, innit?
Yeah, she reckons that he was innocent.
Yeah,
but all the evidence proved that he wasn't. And do you know what's nuts about it? When she fell into this loads of uncut. What do you call it? Hay or whatever.
Oh, okay.
So, and that was supposed to have been cut the day before or something, but it wasn't. And if it wasn't for that, she would have fucking
been dead probably.
So if anybody wants to get rid of sheep, make sure. No, I'm joking. No, I want to do that.
Invited a geezer on for an interview.
Tips on how to kill your mate.
No, I'm joking.
Could just shank me instead. It's probably easier.
Oh yeah, it's your boy Suge White. Friday, 7th February, a non-hardcore night for the hardcore, featuring sets from members of Proud, Cartel, and Nine Bar. 90s hip-hop, reggae, dancehall, garage, and straight funk at the best place to chill in London, Cafe Cairo, a friendly Egyptian-themed bar on 2 levels with chill zones and toast stations, plus a courtyard in the back where you can get your pizza on. This Friday, 7th February at Carefree Cairo on Landor Road, 7:30 to late. Closest you, Clapham North.
Sheep, man, you been living in Berlin for a bit, weren't you?
I was there for 5 years.
What's Berlin like? Because we've all been Berlin, and that's like I call that the mecca of punk rock and hardcore. It's such a party city.
I wouldn't.
Yeah. Well, whenever I go there, it just seems like non-stop drinking, man. There's so many bars.
All right, Berlin's a wonderful city to visit. There's a lot going on, there's a lot of cool touristy stuff. There's a big sort of party culture there, a lot of people going out and bars and clubs and that, and there's a pretty strong punk scene. There's like a very big squat scene there and stuff like that, and you've got stuff like Cortex and the SO36, and basically the MAD type hardcore scene, like traditional New York hardcore, Terror, Agnostic Front. Those shows will all do really well. 500 to 800 kids sold out, right? But the DIY scene, the DIY hardcore scene, is lacking, in my opinion.
Oh, really?
There's not an awful lot going on. There are people doing things, but it's just there weren't that many shows. Like I remember Blistered played there, and that's when Blistered were doing all right. They were like new hype band in the UK. There's probably like 200 kids a show or whatever, and there was 10 people paid in
10 people for Blistered in
to
Berlin.
See Blistered.
Wow, that's insane, man.
Blistered are like,
and I was one of those 10. I'm just like, and
at the time they were a hype. They had the hype, like
they had a bit of momentum behind them, and it's like stuff like I've seen, decent bands played to very few people in Berlin. So I didn't really dig it. There's some nice lads in Berlin. There's not that many young people though. I mean, maybe I just didn't know them, but everyone that I knew that was involved in stuff is like my age or older.
Do you know, I see Berlin more as that like punk rock, and as you said, that New York hardcore sort of like the bigger bands like Madball, Agnostic Front. That's what people are sort of like more into in Berlin. Because like I never hear anything about like Berlin hardcore bands coming out, and I think anything at all. Like
it's almost like
kind of weird as well. Like I mean,
it's
I'm
almost
sure
like a retro city, isn't it?
Yeah,
like a retro scene. Rather than an up-to-date, like, current hardcore punk scene, it's a fucking retro scene based on the old shit.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, what you're saying is right, because I played there about, I think, 3 years ago with Knuckle Dust, No Turning Back, Wisdom in Chains, and we had 80 people maybe.
Yeah,
and we was like,
and that's a solid package there.
Yeah.
Like most of the parts in Europe, you're going to get decent number of folk. But I mean, Berlin's got a lot going for it. There's a lot of cool things about the city, but the hardcore scene there isn't one of them. And it surprises most people. Ask me that, expecting because everyone knows Cortex and some of the legendary venues, and the people expect it to be this big thing, but it's only big for certain American bands.
I see that as well.
But would you put that down on the fact that any big touring band, that's the main spot? So every week they've got shows going in and out of Berlin, so people are going to choose Gnostic Front or Madball, obviously, over a more DIY show, because people have only got so much money. They can't say that.
You could say that of London. All of those bands also come through London. What band tours and plays Berlin and don't come to London?
Yeah,
they all come to London. Yeah, the London DIY scene is banging as well.
Yeah,
true.
So what's your thought? What's your thought on it? What reason would you give?
I mean, I'm just a dirty foreigner. I don't know. It's not like my scene. When I moved over there and started going to shows, there wasn't like a decline or anything. I think at some points in the past, the Berlin scene was pretty good. You got some decent bands that have come from Berlin in the past, but they all died, and like with a lot of local scenes, they kind of coalesce around a band, or a core group of individuals doing stuff. And if Berlin's not had like a really good popular local band to kind of help drive their local scene, it's not going to help them.
It is kind of like a unique city out of the cities that you probably played in Germany as well. Would you agree with that? Like,
yeah.
Because I mean, there's
everyone
like,
that's there is like a visitor, isn't it? A visitor,
kind of.
So
like, I've only been there a couple of times. So I mean, obviously, I wasn't there for like a long time, but it felt nice to be there as like a visitor. But yeah, saying about the scene, it just doesn't feel like there's anything there. Like it's just people who just turn up for the show, then they go. That's it.
Yeah. But nah, man, I still would say that's one of my favourite places. Like when you go to Berlin, you know that you're gonna have an amazing.
It's a cool city to hang out with.
Yeah,
you can
so much
hang out on the river, go drink beers on the street. Like there's loads of cool stuff, especially if you're visiting. It's a good weekend away destination or whatever.
Yeah, man. So I was thinking going back to when I first met you. I think I first met you in 1996 or...
Yeah, it's when you supported Strife at the 1 in 12 Club.
Oh, shit, so
October or November 1996.
God damn, man.
Wow.
Put you in check, didn't
Look
he?
at Windows 10 over here. So, like, was that a show that... I can't remember who arranged that show, but I think it was
Lecky.
Lecky, okay.
And maybe Nick Royals was involved because Strife were on tour with Sepultura at the time, and they had a day off, so they booked them for the 1 in 12.
Yes, I remember, man. But we had a podcast with Pierre a couple of episodes ago, and he was basically talking about, because Pierre knew you before I knew you, I think I'm right in saying, and what he said was something along the lines of, he used to look out when bands came over touring, if they missed London and they was playing up north, he would go down north to catch the band. And I think he said that's how he met all you guys. Can you remember the first time you met Pierre?
I think it would have been at Sheffield Speakeasy, probably. That whole kind of period. Right, you remember when sort of leading up to when Indecision played there and stuff, you had like a bunch of gigs at Sheffield Speakeasies.
Oh, right, so we might have met the same time then. So it weren't before then.
So I definitely remember like a bunch of you London lads coming up to some of them shows around that sort of period. I think, I can't remember which one. I remember Schmuck and Blood Green. So before Schmuck turned into Canvas, it was like Schmuck, Blood Green, and a couple of other bands played there. It's like when Foster was putting on gigs.
Yeah. Foster was like an old school
crass punk or whatever.
Yeah.
Slash knobhead.
We'll get into that later on.
Slash knobhead. Perfect.
So I thought that Pierre met you beforehand, but maybe not. So the first question we always ask guests is, how did you like discover hardcore? Like, what was your road to hardcore?
So fucking lame. All right. So, all right, I was at school and it was like 94, loved Nirvana, Rage Against the Machine, and I thought I was like, it's like the only kid at school that sort of liked that stuff. Maybe I thought I was the only kid at school, but then it was obviously like Nirvana peak, everyone was getting big, and I just wanted to get into something else that no one else was into. Like, it's really sad.
Was you the rebellious type then, yeah?
Yeah, well, I thought I was. It's really sad, but I remember that's kind of what I was thinking, and then I was just like, I'm going to get into skateboarding, because no one really skated at my school, and there was this girl in my English class called Jodie, and she was like, oh, skaters listen to hardcore, man. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to listen to hardcore then.
That was it.
And then went on a journey of exploration from there, trying to like...
Wait.
You know,
are you saying you're into hardcore because a girl told you to?
See, you...
100%, unfortunately.
See, you said it's a lame question, but how nuts is that?
Yeah,
that's
and then,
fucking cool.
If you never had that conversation, we might not be sitting there now.
Yeah, well... Yeah, so she was a bit of a grunger herself, but she was like, oh yeah, all hardcore kids, all skaters listen to hardcore. And then, like, my first real contact with the hardcore kids was the Schmuck Boys. Like,
how did you meet them?
I think it's just mutual friends and stuff, because they lived, the Sutcliffe brothers, they lived on my road. It was
the Sutcliffe brothers. It sounds like a bunch of monsters, isn't it?
My head literally just went, don't say it.
The Yorkshire Dons of crime, John and Andy Sutcliffe. No. Check this out, right? The Sutcliffe brothers, their dad was in the Grumbleweeds.
The Grumbleweeds?
Yeah. You remember them?
No.
Look, Google it.
The what were they?
Grumbleweeds. I've never heard of them.
I'm just going to, anyone listening to this, bit of UK hardcore trivia, just look up the Grumbleweeds.
Grumbleweeds. And we've got Lewis's searching away.
Wow. The Grumbleweeds are an award-winning British comedy band performing music and comedy. They were mostly popular on radio and television in the 1980s, including the Grumbleweeds radio show, which ran from 79 to 88. They're like a comedy rock band.
Yeah, man's obviously got good musical genes, because he fathered Canvas, basically, which is like one of the best bands ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like, I met them, and obviously back then it was like tape trading and a very sort of slow exploration. But that was, the peak of the vegan straight edge metal victory era for me, like 95 when I first started going to shows. So like that's all the stuff I got copied. People weren't making me tapes with Minor Threat and Black Flag on it. It was making me tapes with Strife and Broken Snapcase and that ilk on there. So that's kind of where I entered from.
And just coming back to the Sutcliffe brothers, would you say that you had a ripping good time with them?
Fuck's sake.
Oh, aye.
We can continue now. I needed to get that one out.
You had to get it one out, didn't you? It was like bursting to get it out.
So
Sorry, John and Andy.
How did the northern scene develop then? Because when I came down, you guys like had a fully, your scene was more or less like fucking. Do you know what I mean? Fully active, man. You was ahead of London. Do you know what I mean?
There was a lot of hard work gone in to that before I ever even had heard of the whole thing. You look at the Northern Wolfpack in the early 90s, Lecky, Nick Royals, and a lot of the people, a lot of the sort of legendary Wigan shows and stuff like that.
So Northern Wolfpack, that was like a crew, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
Like, but not in the American sense where they beat people senseless for no reason. And
it was a straight edge crew, right?
Yeah,
or was it just a hardcore
more or less
crew?
I think. I don't know if they were exclusively
Say more collective,
edge,
like.
Yeah, well, it was based more out of the northeast, because obviously Lecky's originally from that way, and a lot of those lads involved were all from the northeast, and so like when I first started going to shows, like shit was fairly healthy. For the time, obviously, you remember back then, compared to the stuff we've got now, the scene in the UK, in any part of the UK, was comparatively small. Like 50 kids at a show back then was a good turnout.
It was.
The very first show I ever went to was Shelter playing with Voorhees, and that was at the Duchess, and that was like a 250 cap room, and those were like the big shows. Which obviously like 200 for an American touring band is kind of a small show these days. That's like the smaller end of things, and the bigger ones are at least 400 or 500. So it was very much small, but a lot of people doing stuff. You had the 1 in 12 club, a lot of shows going on there.
I used to love that club, man.
Still going.
You still have shows there?
Yeah, I think so. Fireburn recorded there with Bry Doom this week.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fireburn, which is
that's members of
the Glaswegian band, Glaswegian, Edinburgh, somewhere in Scotland. But they went down and recorded with Bry Doom. So yeah, they had a period where they kind of went a bit wobbly, I think, with the finances and the collective and stuff, but they're still going, but just not so many shows going there. But like I saw like Battery, Damnation, like loads of great shows at that place back in the day.
Didn't they have the festival there? Didn't they?
The 1 in 12 fest every
festival.
November or so. Yeah, it's great. I used to get a whole loaf of bread and make lemon curd sandwiches out of the whole loaf, and I would take that with me, and that would just last me the whole weekend. I didn't have money for food, so I would just take that and survive on that for the whole weekend.
Do you know this guy, right?
Lemon curd sandwiches all the way sick.
Whenever he was the original, like he's saying, with the sandwiches and that. And when we had shows in London, this guy used to fucking hitchhike fucking everywhere, man. Every time he comes to London, he used to hitchhike. We'd be like, I want to ask you about that. Did you? We're going to go back to the hardcore thing, but what's the hitchhiking thing? Have you guys ever done that?
I've never hitchhiked before, man.
Me personally, I'll be fucking scared as. I'll wake up with your hands tied up, an apple in your mouth, and some weird dude standing over you, like,
why does
woman.
Why does that scare you?
That's a good question, actually.
You get to your destination and get bonus good free time. What are you on about?
Did you ever have any weird experiences? Like, did you ever get in a hitchhike in a car down to London or back to North and something weird happened?
Well, we had lots of shit journeys in a sense. Like, you're kind of reliant on people not thinking you're a serial killer or whatever, and you're trying to hitchhike places, and sometimes you give up. You'd be like, there's a gig, and you'd set out like the morning of the gig. You've got all day hitchhike, and you just stand at the side of the road for 5 hours, and no one would pick you up, and you're like, oh fuck it, I'm going home then. But most of the time, did really well out of it. I had a few weird conversations with people, like got picked up. Very, very weird conversations, but nothing weird ever happened.
Or
yeah, I think I was quite a naive, innocent teenager. Well, 'cause I was like 16 when I was doing this, 16, 17.
Hitchhiking to London.
And there were like questions, like I look back at conversations that we had, and I was just like, I remember this guy told me about how he was in the army, and he used to like the sentries, on sentry duty, they'd all give each other blowjobs and stuff, and like 16-year-old me was like, all right, cool, carry on. And then like looking back, I'm like, all right, well, there you go. I was pretty naive from that extent of things back then. But
what did you tell your parents? Like, do you say you was going to London, or do you? They obviously didn't know that you was hitchhiking, right?
I don't know if they did, to be honest. There was a point where I kind of just, you know, when I said teenage rebellion and that, right? My parents are like mad religious. Like they moved to China for 10 years because God told them to.
Oh, really?
They're like
Fucking hell.
well into it, right? Like proper happy clappy born again Christians.
That's my kind of people, man.
Yeah, like, you know, have you seen Borat the film?
Yeah.
You know, when he kind of like has a crisis of faith, like 2/3 of the way through, and he ends up in that massive church, and they're all running down the aisles and falling over.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of church. That's what I was raised in.
Wow, you're the total opposite from that. Like,
yeah, well, because when I was like 14, I'm like, yeah, that's not really my cup of tea. And then they weren't kind of into that, like, no, you need to go to church. And I'm like, yeah, I don't, fuck off. And so we had this sort of teenage rebellion, and then I was very independent from that point of view. Like, it took me a while to appreciate my parents because I was very angry at them for trying to enforce their stuff, their beliefs on me. And so, like, I think once they realised that the straight edge thing was actually real and I wasn't getting pissed, they were kind of just happy with me just toddling off with my hardcore mates going to gigs because I wasn't getting in trouble from their point of view. Yeah. So they were fairly chill with it. And I would just have a big like hiking rucksack and I'd fill it up with tin potatoes and bourbons pretty much. And then I'd toddle off for a few days and come back and skipped a lot of school, but yeah, no one seemed to say anything. So
I mean, to be fair, I mean, if your parents are like super religious and you're like, yeah, I don't drink or I don't do anything like that, I mean,
you were saying
can't really argue with that. Like,
your dad was in Ghana. They're quite religious as well, isn't it?
Yeah, they're pretty strict in Ghana. I used to get threatened loads of times when I was a kid that I'm going to get sent back to Ghana. Like, never happened. Obviously, I'm still here. But like, yeah, I can relate to Sheep. Obviously, not super religious, but when when my mum passed, my dad obviously started to go to church, and we went along. Like, and I wasn't really feeling it too much. But once I got to a certain age, again, it's that clash of like you should be going, but I don't really want to go. And then, just didn't go. Yeah,
fair enough, man. Yeah. So back to the Northern Hardcore scene. So like, Area Effect, we've talked a lot about Area Effect on this podcast because that was, I would say, from me personally, that was the first band from up north that I had a really close bond with. We used to do a lot of shows. I remember you used to tag along quite a lot.
Yeah.
How does the northern scene work? You got Leeds, Manchester. At that time, the spots were Sheffield, Manchester, Leeds, and Newcastle.
Yeah.
Was that like 4 independent scenes, or was it like one scene?
Well, you had the people that didn't travel to other shows, and then you had the people that did. And I think the people that would travel to other shows in other cities and they were in the bands were very much sort of accepted across all of them. Not that there was any unacceptance by anyone, but more a case, there were some people like who wouldn't have bothered going on a bus to Manchester.
Sheffield to Manchester, how far is that drive?
Hour and a bit.
Over Snake Pass, a bit longer. Leeds Manchester's closer because you can just whiz across the M62. It's only 35 miles ish.
That's what I'm saying. For us to get to one side of London to the other can take what, 2.5 hours, 3 hours?
Could do. Yeah.
So that's why I asked, because did you see yourself as one scene? Because even though it's 4 different areas, you was all. Other than Newcastle, you was all pretty close.
Well, I think there's a certain element of, especially back then, bands would generally only play like one northern show, a lot of the time.
Oh, really? Yeah, because it weren't. The same people would go to the same.
Yeah, everyone knew each other, especially with the scene being a lot smaller than it is now. I don't really think people viewed it as sort of like fiercely separate, like with their own identities, but the scenes were different. In Leeds you had a lot more sort of emo stuff going on. There's a sort of scene within us, you've always got different styles going on. You had like Polaris and that kind of more emo side of things, and bands from other cities like Baby Harp Seal, Bob Tilton would come and play in Leeds, and that, I don't think that was as big in Manchester and Newcastle, Sheffield to me. I think that stuff was a lot bigger in Leeds. But yeah, I think it was. I mean, to be honest, I think the whole scene in the UK was a lot more united back then because it was out of necessity. 100%. It was smaller. You couldn't afford to exclude people in the way that now, or at various points between then and now. Old school kids don't want to get involved with the metalcore kids and stuff like that. There weren't enough bands. There weren't enough kids to have divisions. So everyone was just
united
together. People that didn't like the metal stuff still kind of went to the shows because there weren't that many shows for them to pick from.
And it's funny you say that because, and this might be controversial, but I feel like there's a slight divide between South and North now bands. Like, not a divide like a beef thing, but you see that the Northern bands would tend to play more of each other and the Southern bands tend to play more of each other. It's not mixed as much as it was back in the day. Do you agree with me, or?
I mean, I can't speak for back in the day because obviously I wasn't around. But today, I mean, yeah and no in that sense, because obviously I know a lot of guys up north in bands and obviously not in bands, and a lot of them come down south to play shows and to hang out and stuff, and it's all good in that. But obviously there's different scenes and there's different types of bands and stuff, so they're not going to mix like so. Obviously, you've got some of the bigger Leeds and Manchester bands up there, like they might not necessarily play with, like, say, a beatdown crowd down in, say, maybe down south or in the Midlands or whatever. It just doesn't mix unless it's on a festival or something, like, say, Reggae Fest or something like that.
The division is stronger along the genre lines rather than the geographical ones.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Remember remember we played that thing in Leeds a few years ago, and it was just a beatdown fest.
Shedfest.
Is it? Was
it was Shedfest in Leeds we played,
Yeah. And I remember standing there just watching. It was something like 15 beatdown bands in one day. Just being like, fucking hell. And I think we were the only band that didn't really do that style as well. And I think we were kind of met with a lot of like funny looks from the crowd.
No, I do remember a lot of people getting down, the kids and that, but yeah, it's just a bit different, isn't it? Like,
Sheep, would you say that's something that you miss from the old days? The fact, like what you're saying, that we had to, the bands don't mix as much, like the different genres, the different styles, or do you think that's just something that the way the scene's developed and that's not something that can change?
I think I miss it because, I mean, I've always liked everything. Like, I like Gorilla Biscuits. I like Bulldoze. I like Modern Life as War. I like, I've always kind of like been into everything across the whole hardcore spectrum a little bit like that. So like, I like mixed bills when I like, into the bands and that. But at the same time, I think it's a unfortunately fairly natural progression for people to, if you're into beatdown bands, like what are you're not going to bother going to see the old school bands because it's not your cup of tea.
Sunday the 16th of February, Radio Collective presents, all the way from Pittsburgh, Enemy Mine.
Look, I don't have to play games. Don't give a fuck what you say. You're nothing like me, you can't be me.
Along with three of the UK's finest, hardest bands. Cold Hard Truth, Bun Them Out, and Split Knuckle. That's Sunday the 16th of February at the Black Heart, Camden. £10 on the door. Don't miss it.
Going back to the scene in the 90s, what were the main bands in? Can you give us a rundown of some of the bands? You've obviously mentioned Canvas.
Yeah. They were always like my number one back then.
Yeah, I know you used to love them. They were the first band. They had that. They had a wicked style. I remember they used to use Mad Effects.
Yeah.
And that has a mad,
they kind of
original
went,
sound.
Really funky towards the end, which some people loved. The Lost in Rock sort of era. I wasn't as bothered about that. I'm never really into prog. I was more into the H8000 stuff. So the earlier shit was what got me going. You had them. See, Voorhees, were quite prolific throughout the entire 90s. They don't get enough props. Voorhees, to me, is one of the most important UK bands ever.
100%.
Like the discography is fucking banging. They're so good. I mean, they were touring with Hatebreed in America in like 95, 96 or whatever, way back when. And it seems like not many people give them the due.
Why do you think that is?
Their style of music's not that popular anymore. Obviously, you got that kind of new wave of British hardcore stuff that's into that like faster, aggressive sort of sound, and suckling on the teat of Negative Approach and that sort of thing, and that Boston vibe. I'm sure a lot of those kids, but in general, I personally think that like everyone should love that band. I think there's a lot of new kids that have got. They're overwhelmed. There's so many bands now, and if you look at just the output of this country in the last 10 years, there's so many amazing records, and you could probably just spend your lifetime listening to those, never mind going further back. But there's a lot of important bands in the history of this country's scene that are overlooked now in a way that American bands aren't. Everyone will give Gorilla Biscuits the due, Youth of Today, Judge, going further back, Teen Idols, Minor Threat, whatever. But there's a lot of bands that are really important for the UK scene that don't get their due, and I definitely think Voorhees would be top of the pile for that one for me.
Yeah, man.
Really, really important. Other bands, sort of late 90s, Vengeance of Gaia.
I mentioned them before from Newcastle, right?
Pre 30 Seconds to Armageddon, Linz. Also when it's in Break It Up. Because I think there weren't that many bands. You've mentioned Area Effect. They were really, really busy. They were the biggest band up north, would you say? Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's funny because I listened to them again a while back, and they've not aged well. No offense to anyone, but there's some stuff in the 90s you can listen to it and you're like, oh, it's great. And there's some stuff you can't. And
with them, I think it's more about the energy.
It was the live energy with them, wasn't it? But the quality of the recording, I think,
terrible.
Doesn't really work for it. Like when you listen back now,
Andy Goddard, God bless him, was probably not the world's most competent drummer.
Shout out to Andy.
Love you, Andy. No, I can't play anything at all. But, it's pretty dated, but it was really important, And when they broke up, the Manchester scene went on its arse.
Yeah,
they were, the glue that kept Manchester together, and they broke up, and then people just kind of drifted apart. Like having a local band that everyone likes is really important, and maybe that's one of the reasons why London has been consistently good. It's because Knuckle Dust and the LBU have never gone away. You've been there the entire time. You can look at a lot of other scenes that have come and gone, and you can trace the rise and fall in popularity of these scenes with, the efforts of the local people. Do you remember when Peterborough got really big? 98, 99, you had Triple H, and there's a Positive Outlook record, whatever the record label was called, right? So Peterborough was a great place to play for a couple of years, and then all of them were like 18, 19. They all went to uni, and Peterborough died. 1 September, Peterborough was just dead because everyone had fucked off to uni and they'd all gone other places.
That's all it takes, isn't it?
You can just, the loss of 2 or 3 key players are the ones that are doing everything, and once they disappear or stop doing it, if no one else steps up, then shit just dies.
And that's exactly what you just said. If no one else steps up, then it kind of just doesn't go anywhere. It just folds.
It just dies. I
mean, there are some bands still in Peterborough that's still playing in that surrounding area. So
they've been and gone. There's been a lot of bands since then come and gone, but
it's not been like how it was. I remember Indecision playing there. They had a little Peterborough hardcore festival day, and that was one of my favourite shows, man, from back in the day. Yeah, that was fucking amazing, man.
Big shout out to Imbalance. Another very important 90s band.
I had them marked down, but I think they were the band that they were professional sounding. Before they knew how to play the instruments, they knew how to sing.
They were a little bit older than everyone else, though, weren't they?
Yeah, a little bit. Not by much. Probably 5 years or something. Yeah. But then again, you were always older than me. I was always the baby.
I'm still older than you.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, true.
Yeah, you're like what, two or 3 years older than me?
Yeah, I think so.
Everyone was back then. All the Canvas boys as well.
Yeah,
most
you're
of them,
right.
You know,
you're
I was
right,
always
you're
like, when I was like the 15, 16-year-old kid, everyone else was like 19 or 20.
You're making me sound like a pervert now.
How old are you now, shit?
It's about to turn 40. Just
About 40.
I'm 40 the start next month.
All right, so
cool.
so you're
Yeah,
like
right,
you're right,
6 months younger than me.
Are you a February born as well?
Yeah, 7th of February.
Oh shit!
Shit,
I'm
man.
the 12th of February.
Yeah.
Aquarius.
But yeah, anyway, Imbalance, man. Yeah, they were the band that I thought, but they were like the kind of UK, not Gorilla Biscuits.
Everyone said Gorilla Biscuits, but they never were.
Nah.
Like, you know what they were? Imbalance were the actual embodiment of what Richter Life wanted.
Wow.
Unity. Right? No kidding. Everyone loved Imbalance. Right?
Yeah, they did.
It doesn't matter what you liked back then. Imbalance was a band that everyone loved because they were like, they were such nice lads. There was never any beef or drama, right? Did not upset anyone. Everyone loved them, right? The music was just catchy, you know. The shows were such a good time. Everyone was just like losing their minds in a kind of like positive, happy way. No one ever got hurt, and they were just great. Everyone loved them. I can't think of anyone who didn't like them at the time.
I loved them. I know I did, man. It's true.
Yeah.
What happened? Because
Everywhere they went.
that was on Household Name. I know Household Names was pushing them quite hard.
Yeah.
And I heard talk that they did get a major deal with someone, but it didn't happen. Or
Oh, I don't know about that.
I could be wrong, man. Do you still speak to them guys? Or
Yeah.
I heard it was going to be full.
On and off. I'm like, they played a couple of years ago now. They played like 2 or 3 shows, and I managed to make the one in Grimsby. And it was good. I loved it. There weren't as many people from the 90s at that show that I was hoping for, but I was also in Grimsby, so all the 40-year-olds with kids, it's tough to take a trip up to Grimsby for it. But they're all good. I hung out with Andy as well recently outside of that. He was in Glasgow at the same time as I was for some reason, and we ended up hanging out in a pub trying not to get stabbed. It's part of the course in Glasgow, isn't it? But yeah, they all seem to be doing pretty well.
Nah, that's cool, man. I remember the first time that I was gonna play out north, being a black guy in the 90s. I was a little bit pranging. I was like, oh, is it gonna kick off? I don't know who these people are. So I was ready to like. Honestly, I had it in the back of my mind that I was ready to go if it kicked off. I remember I met all you guys, and like you guys are fucking so friendly. You're so welcoming. It's like we were brothers. Do you know what I mean? The way you treated me.
People from the North are welcoming though. No,
I remember. I absolutely loved it, and I remember we played a festival with Canvas, and I remember the bass player. They had a new bass player. And he's wearing a T-shirt, right? I think it was gay, right? It was gay. And I remember he's wearing a T-shirt and it says something like Gay Edge. And
that would have been Gaz.
Gaz, you know him, right? Yeah. Okay, shout out to Gaz. I remember looking at that T-shirt and thinking, fuck me, man, that's cool that someone can wear that and feel comfortable. Because I'll be real, at that time in London, imagine East London walking down the street in the 90s, Lewis.
Oh, fuck,
or Steve.
Man.
Wearing a T-shirt that says Gay Edge or something gay. Even the hardcore scene in the 90s in London, I mentioned it on a podcast before, there was a bit of a little Nazi crew that used to go around creating trouble. And if they had seen Gaz wearing that T-shirt, they would have set upon him. But I mentioned it just to say that your scene was so fucking so welcoming, do you know what I mean? And people felt comfortable that they could wear a T-shirt that said things like that.
Yeah, it was always, you remember, like, it sounds weird when I say it now, given how society has changed, but the 90s were very politically correct.
Really?
In the hardcore scene in the north.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you had quite a lot of progressive, forward-thinking people. There was quite a lot of like strong feminist women involved in the scene, doing things like Helene Subjugation, Veek Simba, she's running Simba Records, doing Revelation Europe and stuff. Well, people who weren't content with standing in the back, they were saying when they saw things that weren't right, and they were loud and vocal about it. So I think there's always going to be darker elements involved in any sort of group of people and stuff, but I always remember like the North being a lot more sort of PC than the South.
Oh yeah,
but also
yeah.
like in terms of very basic stuff, like it was always cool going down south to shows because you could like kickbox and that. Go watch Knuckle Dust in London and spin kick yourself silly, and you couldn't really get away with it in like. It changed over time, you know, but there was definitely like, 95, 96, 97. It was a lot more, not push moshy, but people weren't, spin kicking each other in the head. So, it was kind of cool. I remember one of the best Canvas shows I ever saw was they played in Amsterdam on tour, and I tagged along, just like a bad smell you can't get rid of. And like kids were going off them, and it was probably the best time I ever saw Canvas because people didn't really go off. And when they played Leeds, it was in their hometown, and you would expect like the hometown show to like kick off. It wasn't really that kind of pro mosh in Leeds. It was a little bit more sort of PC. There was like much more of an emo scene, and so like all these kids were going off, and I got to mosh my little 16-year-old arse off, and it was great. I'm like, wow, people are moshing. This is fucking sick. And it was still like the best time, and it's weird because I feel for like a lot of other bands, the best shows I've ever seen them play are their hometown shows when like all their mates are going wild. But with Canvas, it definitely weren't. It was maybe the Amsterdam show or some of the other ones they played where people actually went off, and Leeds it never really did. Obviously that's changed. But in the 90s, Leeds wasn't mosh-tastic, let's put it that way.
Mosh-tastic, I like that.
It's a nice little history lesson here, man.
No, it's cool.
Some of the youngers are going to be hearing some interesting stuff.
Well, I mean, people might see it differently. This is just my opinion.
No,
the way I see it.
Of course. People got different stories from different angles of how they saw life, viewed life.
Yeah. I mean, I remember putting on, would it be like Area Effect, Vengeance of Gaia, Withdrawn, Canvas, at the Pack Horse in Leeds, all for the time. Well, I still think those bands are amazing now, but especially at the time, that was like the creme de la creme of what was going on in the North, and it didn't go off. So it was a successful show in the sense that people turned up for it, but it wasn't like the walls weren't drenched with sweat at the end of it, and everyone was sat on the curb outside trying to get the breath back. That's just kind of how it wasn't like that.
Was it more like just people singing along and stage diving and stuff, or
no? Well, it was a floor show, so we weren't a stage for anyone to stage dive off, and not really that much singing along either. It's difficult to sing along on Canvas because you can't fucking tell what you're saying. But I think you had a lot of. It was just, it just weren't that mosh heavy. Like maybe a lot of people who were probably a bit too shy. Like definitely me. Like I think it took a few years of going to shows to get to the point where...
one of the craziest people I've seen at that show, man.
Fucking like, we can't mosh in Leeds and just comes out in London. Fucking hell,
you're one of the craziest people I've seen you dance.
But I think it took me a while to like get to the point where I kind of didn't give a fuck what people thought, and I'm just going to enjoy myself the way that I want to enjoy myself.
I love it.
And when you're like 16 and everyone else is several years older than you, and you kind of like... want to mosh, but you're like, oh, this guy. I think I love it when you go to shows and you see the one kid who's maybe he's not like the cool guy in the scene or whatever, and he just doesn't give a fuck and he moshes, and you can see loads of people looking at him like, oh, fucking loser or whatever, and I'm like, no, that's the coolest kid here because he doesn't give a fuck and he's moshing regardless. Because without the mosh, hardcore's just a bit shit, really, isn't it?
No.
I mean, it's not the only thing that the scene's got going for it, but if you take away this sort of like visceral, violent reaction, shared experience that you get from a hardcore show, whether it be like ultra beat down and everyone's going to the hospital afterwards, or whether it's just like old school kids with stage dives and whatnot, there's this kind of interaction between band and crowd that you don't get in a lot of other scenes, that I think is integral to our integrity and what sort of sets us apart. Not that we're like unique or better than any other subgenre of music or whatever, but it's important,
That's fucking amazing, because like I know they're obviously two different types of music, but like going to a hip-hop show, when I go to a hip-hop show, I mean obviously times have changed, etc. I mean, I'm not into hip-hop. When I've been to a show, I'm like watching the artist on stage and like, it's really cool, but I'm just like waiting for something to fucking happen, like, because when you're at a hardcore show, like something's gonna happen, like people.
But they mosh now. That's the funniest thing. Like, if you watch
Yeah,
these
it's
Travis
changed,
Scott
hasn't it?
shows
Yeah.
and all that,
All those.
they mosh like they do Wall of Death.
Cultural appropriation.
It was like it's like the smaller hip hop shows, though, isn't it? Where it goes.
No, the big ones now.
I went to that. Well, I know it's an old man show. I went to that thing at Wembley Arena. It had Public Enemy,
Wu-Tang and De La Soul.
De La Soul.
It was fucking shit.
Yeah, there's no. What was
It
it?
was
You said that.
shit.
But this is the thing, you've got, with those shows though, you've got a barrier. You know, there's a clear separation between the band and the crowd. And
Yeah.
it's like, you know, we are performing for you. You guys don't really partake except when we tell you to. You know,
Yeah.
you turn the PA down, sing along to this bit. Whereas, you know, the beauty of the hardcore scene is you fucking take it. You want that mic, you fucking get up there and sing it.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
many times have we seen some like just like over enthusiastic kid just grab the mic and finish the song, and the
Yeah.
singer's
Love
just
that,
like,
love that,
all
love
right,
that.
fucking go for it, mate. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you don't really get that in many other genres, or at least not that I've experienced. And I think that's one of the things that makes us different.
Everyone but us. Straight from the heart of London.
Do you know what? There's one guy that, well, we all hate now, but this is the one thing I loved about him, and that was Rick to Life. When you saw a 25 to Life show, I used to love everyone singing the lyrics, and he used to always get everyone like fucking. Do you know what I mean?
It got to the point though where you kind of do pay to go see a band play.
Yeah,
you want
you need
to
a
sing
band.
along, but
I used to love it though.
You kind of want the singer to sing at least like 50% of the song. You know?
I saw 25 to Life in '98 upstairs at the garage
Banging show.
with you lot.
Oh, it was Knuckle Dust. I think,
And that was-
Mark
yeah,
played
that-
Public disturbance.
Maybe.
Might have been,
I
public.
think it was PD.
Yeah, PD.
Yeah, and I just remember feeling like it was a party. That show was a fucking party
Because everyone was just singing.
because it was just a sing along. Everyone's
Yeah.
dancing, everyone's having fun. It just felt like a big fucking party to me.
Lewis, ain't you feeling it?
And
Nah, I'm fucking gutted. I'd love to like.
Oh, yeah.
the spectacle of those 25 to Life shows, like the 90s ones, and that. There's one video on YouTube where the pylons are ridiculous. I mean, you still see it now today. Different bands and that, like, which is still amazing.
Right,
but
before they turn into a joke that could only tour in France. Yeah.
those days, the original days with what's it called, 25 to Life.
If you want to check out a cool 25 to Life show, check out the what's that?
Super Bowl of Hardcore.
Nah,
maybe?
the festival. The thing.
Yeah, Doorfest. Yeah,
Door
Festival.
Fest. There's a
Right,
video of that, mate. Check
probably
that out.
98, maybe.
That was about 98.
Yeah, give or take.
That was sick, man.
I don't know if I've seen that one.
Yeah, check it out.
Have a look.
man. It's sick.
Doorfest was fucking mint back then. The bands, I remember we used to watch the videos of the pit, being like, "Holy shit, they'd kill you," which is hilarious because if you watch that now compared to what goes on now, it's
Yeah,
like,
I know.
it's so tame.
Yeah.
But back then we felt it was like the most violent thing in the world. You're like, "Oh, you're going for a minute, you're gonna get a black eye."
But all these bands, there's one up north. There's one thing they all had in common.
Being
And that
better
was-
looking than Southerners.
No, you had no brothers, so automatically we're cooler, man. Come on, no, that was all straight edge. Like the northern scene had a massive straight edge scene, and that was the biggest difference I would say from the south to the north.
Yeah.
Like, so you've been straight edge. For those that don't know, Sheep's been straight edge for how long?
25 years this year.
25 years, man.
That is the truth, man.
So let's talk about straight edge. Like, so was you straight edge before you got into hardcore?
No.
So
No, I was a pisshead before I got into hardcore.
could you imagine? I couldn't imagine. But I reckon you'd be a reckless pisshead. I
Mad
reckon
Dog
we'd end up-
2020 fucking represent, mate. Fucking cheapest
You?
thing you could get from Spa, yeah. Or White Lightning, bottle of White Lightning sort you right out.
Oh, you're a white lightning
it's a
kid.
white
Oh,
lightning
well, because it was cheap, weren't
Yeah,
it?
it's cheap.
Or the other one, the Mucky Mixture Special. You go around someone whose parents have got like a drinks cabinet, and you take like a
God.
centimetre off each bottle of spirits, put it all together and shake it up.
Because you know they'd never notice. You
Oh,
take
yeah.
a tiny bit.
It is the
It is the
foulest thing in the world, but man, does that
That's
fuck
gross.
you up.
Yeah.
Lucky mixer.
You know what? Can I ask you a question? Because you talked about your parents being like really religious. Is that what was you one of them kids that just like wanted to be like fuck authority? Like, did that push you to want to drink 2020s and?
No, I just wanted to drink it because everyone else at school was drinking it,
Okay,
and
fair
want to
enough.
get
Yeah,
fucked up.
peer
Like,
pressure,
that weren't a rebellion thing. Because my parents aren't teetotal. They enjoy a nice glass of port.
My kind of people.
They don't get mash up or anything, but they do like a little bit of wine and that. But no, but just, typical high school thing, you start drinking when you're like, 13 and whatever, getting fucked up, listening to Nirvana in your bedroom, headbanging all night.
Do you ever do drugs or anything like that?
Smoked a bit of weed. I remember sitting in my friend Daniel Salt's cellar.
Doing quack?
No. Smoking weed and listening to the Scat Man. I just fell asleep.
Fucking hell, man.
That is the realest story.
That is a weird mix.
It was 1994. He was a big deal.
Oh shit!
The Scat Man can do it.
I'm liking you more and more, Sheep.
That is amazing.
I remember trying speed once. My same friend Daniel Salt, his dad owned like 6 acres of woodland. We built a little hut there, and we'd go and hang out and blow cans of beans up in the fire, and he got some speed. We tried it, and it did nothing to me, which I think is probably because I'm really hyperactive, and if you're really hyperactive, that stuff doesn't do an awful lot to you. It's like, Ritalin is basically what they give to hyperactive kids, and that's just a prescribed version of speed, really, isn't it? So,
holy moly, man! I was never into drugs, man. Never my thing.
Me neither.
I think if I hadn't got into hardcore and straight edge, I would definitely be smashing some fucking pills.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm bad enough sober. I'm like really easily egged on. People are, Sheep, jump off that thing, it'll be dead funny. I'm like, all right then. Like, if I hadn't got into the straight edge, people would be like, take these pills, you'll have loads of fun. I'd be like, all right then. Like, like if I hadn't met Jodie and she hadn't told me I had to get into hardcore to be a skater, maybe I would have met some pillhead and then ended up going to raves and that instead.
But that's kind of mad, man. So then, how did you become straight edge then? Like, so
peer pressure.
That's weird. Peer pressure not to drink.
Well, as you kind of led into this segment with the scene in the north back then was very straight edge. Very vegan, very straight edge.
Talk about it.
And so I was getting into hardcore, and everyone was straight edge. So I was like, I'll guess I'll be straight edge too. You wanted to fit in. I was 15. You don't really have much of a sense of identity when you're 15. You're like looking for it, aren't you? You want to belong to a group. And I remember the first weekend I said I was going to be straight edge was the Heineken Festival in Leeds in Roundhay Park with like Pop Will Eat Itself and Pulp. And so I stopped drinking for that weekend, and I didn't really know what to do with myself because usually you'd be pissed up. Yeah. So you remember when like Boddingtons and that used to have the plastic widget in the bottom?
Yeah.
Spent the weekend going up, like cutting cans open, building a massive pyramid of widgets. My first weekend being straight edge. I mean, it's not a surprise. I was a fucking weird kid. And yeah, I mean, I think I definitely kind of bought into the whole thing for quite a long time. And like these days, I don't really care about it anymore. But like as a sort of movement or anything, because I think it feels like a personal thing, Like if you don't like, not drinking is great for some people. We all know plenty of people who should probably have stopped drinking a lot earlier in their lives.
Steve.
But it works for some people and doesn't. I know plenty of people who would be really fucking boring if they were straight edge.
Steve. Joking.
I am a boring cunt.
Yeah, so I'm like, I think it's great for some people. I think it's worked out quite well for me. I'm quite happy with that. But at the same time, it's, I don't really feel like it's a huge part of my identity or who I am. You have some people who like, they turn it into like part of the label as who they are and stuff. And I guess, I'm not pointing any fingers or anything. I've got fucking X's on either side of my name on my email address. I own an X watch. I'm not trying to swerve it, but at the same time, like I'm more than just straight edge.
I think, I'm not saying this in a derogatory way, but I think for you guys, the older crowds, it's not like, maybe when you was younger, it was like, we're straight edge, but the older you get, it's like, this is just who I am. When you're a bit younger, you want to let people know that you're straight edge.
I think it's like any identity thing. Like, we've been sat here for an hour and none of you have told me to blaze it yet. I feel like you're letting your side down as well. But yeah, it's definitely a thing. Like, I think when I was younger, it was definitely like important, especially because there is a lot of pressure on you to drink, and if you don't want to, people trying to get you to it, kind of like, I think it's probably cool to have something to not cling to, but to like believe in or whatever. And then you get a little bit older, especially when you just see like the number of people who scream about it and are so judgmental, and then like 5 years later they're down the pub having a pint. There's nothing wrong with that. Like some of my best friends used to be straight edge, You know, I don't care. If you're not feeling it anymore, then have a pint.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah.
Like, what is your opinion on people that break edge? Like, for me, I can't have an opinion on it because I've never been straight edge. But like, for
there's
someone
no opinion. Like, people do what they want to do. Like, anyone, like, I was 15 when I went straight edge, right? Is someone going to try and tell me that a decision I made when I was an idiot 15-year-old kid has to stay true for the rest of my life? And if at some point I decide that I do want to have a beer or smoke a joint or whatever, that I am somehow betraying myself or anyone else? Fuck off. Like, I'll do what the fuck I want. If I want to have a beer, I'm not betraying anyone. I'm not letting anyone down. There's nothing wrong with having a beer. You know, I'm not going to. I don't want to. But who cares if your friendship with someone is based on a shared vision of straight edge, and if they suddenly decide they're going to have a beer and you don't want to be mates with them anymore, you were never mates with them in the first place. We've all seen it. Like, there's plenty of people who are right fucking cunts to people who stop being straight edge, and there's unfortunately a good number of kids who were straight edge and then for whatever reason stopped being that, and then they just dropped out the scene because the shame that is then associated with that, and that's a terrible thing. Like, granted, there are people who are cunts about it and shout the super straight edge, the dicks, and then, you know, when they do eventually start drinking, because let's be honest, 95% of kids who are edge will eventually sell out. That's not like throwing shade, it's just statistical fact. You know, most people do leave it behind at some point. Like, yeah, it's funny to laugh about some of the dickheads who are idiots about it and then, you know, end up becoming the very thing they were so disparaging about in the first place. But, you know, extreme examples like that you can't help having a laugh about aside, who gives a fuck?
You know
Yeah.
what? I think straight edge, if you're the right kind of kid and the right kind of kid who sees, like, who's got a positive movement that he or she can be a part of, which stops them from going down a certain path in life when they're young, vulnerable and stupid, even if it lasts for that 5 years and they get to the end of it and then they can treat themselves with a bit more respect and not get so fucked up and not do stupid shit, then it's worth it, right?
I think the opposite though, because I've seen a lot of people that were straight edge and they decide they break edge and they go completely the other side. They dive into drugs, they go.
But that's probably what it was keeping them from in the first place, and that was probably what, you know, in their mind they were just like, I'm going to keep away from that. I'm going to identify as this, and it's a shield around you to prevent you from going down that path.
It's tough. Like, I think if I were to start drinking, I wouldn't do it, but it would be a rough time for me because I think everyone would want to buy me a beer. The novelty of buying cheaper beer. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I'm so popular, right? You know, everyone would just buy me a beer.
No, you know what I mean? Like, but it's the thing. Like, I've done it. Like, I have friends who've been straight edge and they suddenly aren't, and I'm like, I'm going to buy you a beer. This is going to be funny.
Could you imagine that it would, excuse the pun, like, but it would be like a wildfire. It'd be like, yeah, sheep's fucking broke edge. It'd be like, it would just fucking be like, around sheep drinks now. And then people would be at the pub and like just watching sheep drink his first drink. Like,
you're one of us now. Come on,
imagine it's true. The whole fucking show just goes quiet. Sheep drinking this.
And so, like, yeah, you can see why maybe some people when they stop being straight edge or whatever, why they might end up having a period. I've got plenty of friends where they maybe went on a little bit of a bender for a while because they'd not drunk in 10 years or whatnot, and make up for a bit of lost time because everyone wants to get them pissed because it's funny. And then they kind of level out and they're like normal adults. And we all know the people that, like, probably, I don't want to say ruined their life by stopping being straight edge, but definitely their life took a bit of a beating because they just couldn't deal with it. The alcohol, or, you know, I know some people start smoking at the age of 35 after breaking edge, and it's like, well, did you really want to do that?
Yeah.
But, you know, end of the day, it's their life. Let them do what they want.
Introducing Infraction. Find their brand new EP, No Excuses for Failure, at ruction.com.
Yeah, so Sheep, like, at what point did you decide to become a vegan?
Again, that goes back to that northern scene at the time. It was, you know, everyone was vegan. You know, like, and it's consequently, there's a lot of animal rights literature available at shows.
Yeah.
You're exposed to that. That one definitely wasn't like a peer pressure thing in the way that like straight edge thing was sort of like a need to belong or whatever. You know, you get exposed to a lot of that stuff and you read it and you're like, fuck me, this is messed up. So I went vegetarian when I think it was like just around my 16th birthday. I went veg, and then by the end of that year, I'd gone vegan, like September '96 ish.
Straight up, right? You got 3 people here that eat meat. How does that make you feel? Like, because when we had Pierre on the podcast, when we met you guys, we used to sneak off and go to McDonald's or whatever, because we didn't want to be disrespectful. Do you know what I mean? Like, and eat meat in front of you. But how do you feel about it?
You're all wrong, and you're going to burn in hell. No, like. So many of my friends aren't vegan. I've got a lot of vegan friends. I've got a lot of ones that aren't.
But if you be in a room when someone's eating meat next to you, does it put you off? Does it make you feel sick? Do you feel a bit disgusted with the person?
I mean,
no, we'll talk. Like,
I'm almost offended that you'd ask that question.
No, I know
like,
you don't.
Am I
because,
that precious? That, oh God, stop it!
It's literally, like, I was going to say, because I put something up the other day about, I'm not sure, you obviously don't really go on Facebook much, but someone in Liverpool, KFC there,
yeah,
they tried a new vegan burger, and they put chicken in the burger instead of
shit,
the vegan patty. Like
that's not the headline. Everyone like to have a laugh about stupid vegan eating chicken. How do you not know? Whatever, you know. There's people on different sides of the fence, both bashing it, because there's quite a lot of vegans who are unhappy with major corporations sort of foraying into the vegan market the way they have done recently, and then obviously quite a lot of meat eaters who want to take the piss out of vegans.
Yeah.
But you tell me you've got an organisation with like hundreds and hundreds of branches rolling out a new product like that, mistakes aren't going to happen.
They are going to happen.
Come on.
Exactly.
Like, I feel for the lads that ate it, you know, like the number of times I've been fed something over the years that wasn't vegan or even vegetarian, and I didn't know, and I got found out later or bit into it. And it's like, there's a time and a place to kick off about it. Sometimes you can be like, well, you know, you're a bit of a dick, aren't you? You know, like, but most of the time, what's the point in like enforcing this vegan stereotype? They're all a bunch of fucking precious hippies, you know?
Exactly, and they're not.
Like, if someone's done it deliberately, I'll fucking knock them out.
Yeah,
straight up. If someone fed me anything deliberately, that's, you know, that's the line that's crossed. But if it's accidental, then, you know, you obviously you could talk to them about it and be like, that's not cool. But you don't need to, like, try and shame the person or something. It happens, you know.
Nah, for real, man. But there was a period, wasn't there, in the 90s where it was. Would you say it was not? Because Pierre mentioned it again. I keep referring back to his podcast, but there was a band up north, and I don't want to mention the name unless you want to mention them, but they were singing songs about abortion or something, and it was a bit of a
Blood Green or Slave Art.
Do you remember that period? Like,
of course I remember it.
Are we allowed to talk? Are we allowed to talk about it, or would you want to talk about it? Or?
Yeah, I mean, well, if you want a bunch of shit talking, I'll talk about it.
Yeah, of course you do. No, I don't, because go on, fuck it.
Well, I mean, there was a period where, you know, there was a hardline chapter in the UK. You had Chris Meadows, you had Nathan Bean, who, well, I think these days he denies he was hardline, but he was definitely.
Didn't he sing in Canvas for a bit?
No, never.
What band? Lewis, remember we and Steve, we played a festival and Nathan was singing. What band was that for?
Blood Green?
No, we played recently with Ironed Out, and it was
the one in Leeds.
Yeah,
it's,
and Suede were playing next door.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he's singing on this Clevo band again that Lucky was singing for.
Was Kanan?
No, Kanan did a.
Yeah, it was Kanan.
Oh, was that the reunion when no one cared?
Yeah.
I stood at the back and laughed a little bit.
Oh god.
Yeah. So there was a period where there was, you know, like a hyper militant part of the UK scene, much as the same as there was everywhere. You know, like. Adam Malik was sort of hardline back in the day in Poland. There was a pretty big chapter there, and a lot of crazy Americans did it, you know. Vegan Reich, Vanguard fanzine. It was pretty out there, training for the revolution, not masturbating, whatever. Whatever floats your boat.
We're gonna beeps. Put some beeps in this, Steve.
Yeah, and fucking Hardline's a big fucking bag of shit, isn't it? They go, fuck off. Where are they all now? You know, most of them are all fucking munching down on the Burger King Whopper or whatever, you know. Like, what's people concerned? Is Nathan Bean even vegetarian anymore? No. So, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it's Hardline's dumb. It was dumb then. It's dumb now. You know, unfortunately, I don't think anyone's trying to bring it back.
So let's switch it up, man. So at the moment, you're working as a road manager. That's your
Technically, it's tour manager if you want to split hairs, but yeah.
tour manager.
Tour manager.
Yeah. Road manager's a slightly different position.
Oh, sorry, was that a bit insulting?
No, not insulting. Just
beneath
you.
Just beneath you. It goes back to what you were saying about that documentary, Lewis, when he's talking about the garbage man in the New York hardcore documentary.
Oh, he goes into sanitation.
yeah. No, but a tour manager is a lot of responsibility. How did you fall into that? Is that something you wanted to do, or did you fall into it?
No, I definitely fell into it. Well, obviously, you know, used to put on a lot of gigs, ran a record label for a while, you know. We used to go on tour with bands and just not even doing merch, just being like the mosher, you know, in the back of the van, you know, bring sheep along, you'll mosh and get it going every night. And booked shows. And then, if you remember Chrissy Ianu, who now owns the vegan bakery in Highbury, Cookies and Scream.
No,
remember her? Well,
I'm terrible with names. If I saw her face, maybe I remember. Yeah.
She married Nigel from Unborn. She was a booking agent, and I used to buy shows off her. You know, like Walls of Jericho, Give Up the Ghost, Hope Conspiracy, stuff like that. And then 2004, she was like, "Sheep, you go on tour, don't you?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Well, Sick of It all needs someone to look after them at Reading and Leeds Fest. Can you do it?" And I'm like,
"Holy shit!"
Yeah, I had no clue what I was doing at all. But apparently, Sick of It all liked me, and then they asked me to TM them on the next tour, and I like worked for them for a couple of years, and it just kind of went from there. So it was.
You went straight to Sick of It all.
Yeah.
Holy shit, man.
Got quite lucky.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people have done like millions and millions of van tours and stuff, like, and I've done a lot of van tours like for hardcore bands, you know, but from a pleasure point of view, not a work point of view. Like when I went to work, I just kind of looked out and went straight in at the bus level.
Wow, man. So you done that for 2 years, and then what happened when you finished with Sick of It all? Was you planning to continue on, or did?
No.
How does it work? The whole.
Well, I mean, you work for individual bands, you know. Like, I worked for Sick of It all for a while, and then I ended up jumping on board with Bring Me the Horizon instead.
Shit, man.
So I started working for them, and then they was just mad busy and paying me more, so I just stayed with them.
What size? At the time you done Bring Me the Horizon, what size venues are we talking?
Well, when I started working with them, it was 2007. So there were, I think the first tour I tour managed, they headlined the Astoria.
They were on the rise.
They were already doing all right.
Yeah.
Like outside of London, it'd be smaller venues and that, you know, like 500 to 1,000. But obviously, London's always a bit bigger. And then I still had no fucking clue what I was doing. I remember Armin from Sick of It all, like explaining what advancing was to me. He's like, "You've got to like call the promoters and make sure they've got all the info." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I can do that." I had no fucking clue. But it was pretty lucky for me because Sick of It all didn't mind that I didn't really know what I was doing.
So you fucked up, they understood.
Well, they also weren't paying me an awful lot for tour manager, so it worked out for them. They were saving money, but they're pretty like hands-on with stuff, and they're not a kind of band who needs someone to just completely look after everything for them. They're like pretty hands-on with the money, and like they like to know what's going on. They just needed someone who could do like the shit jobs or whatever, you know, like make sure that the Red Bulls don't run out for Pete, or you know, this and that, and I think they were all right with the fact that I didn't know what I was doing because I was enthusiastic and I would just do what I was told, and you know, I learned a bit with them, but then I really learned my trade while I was working for Bring Me. But even now, I look back to things. I remember like one of the first tours I did for Bring Me Horizon, trying to tell the booking agent that she needed to make the tour book, because I'd only ever done Avocado tours where the booking agent made the tour book for you because they had all the information.
The tour bookers in book the shows? Yeah,
like with all the, you know, promoter's address and phone number and you know, like that sort of thing. And so I was like, yeah, well, the booking agent makes sense. She's like, no, you need to do it. And I was like, I had no idea that I needed to do that. I'm like, okay, I'll do that then.
Holy shit.
So, yeah, clearly I had no idea what I was doing and just sort of managed to fake it till you make it a little bit, I guess. Or work for some sympathetic people who maybe didn't mind that I didn't know everything. and learned it as I went along.
Did you know Bring Me the Horizon before you started?
Oh yeah, I put on like their second or third ever show. The first time they ever played outside of Sheffield was at the Fenton in Leeds, supporting Think It Through in the setup.
Holy shit, man!
Yeah,
they set up from Belgium.
Yep.
Fucking hell!
And then
because they got I don't know much about them. They're from a hardcore background, right?
Yeah. They're all like used to go to like my shows, the shows back around then. Like if you look at some pictures of shows, you'll see them. And then there's a picture I took of the Last Chance playing the Edge Day show in 2004. It was their last show, I guess. And there's Adam Malik stage diving feet first, and you've got Matt Keane, the bass player, Bring Me the Horizon, like with his hand up on like Adam Malik's shoe, about to catch him.
Holy shit, man!
I've got a picture of Ollie Sykes, probably like a 14 or 15-year-old Ollie Sykes, front row at the Blood Brothers show in Leeds, wearing a scarf inside the sweaty venue. And I remember ripping him on my live journal at the time, going, "Who's this fucking kid wearing a scarf inside a sweaty show?" Of course, it's fucking Ollie Sykes. So yeah, no, they used to go to shows. Like I remember one tour we did in the States. We had On Broken Wings open up the tour because they were like one of the bands that they used to love, before the band got big, and they were like, let's just get this band. The Breaking opened up for Bring Me the Horizon on a UK tour, maybe like 2008, because they liked the Breaking. They'd seen them a bunch. Obviously, they've not actively been like going to shows since the band sort of took off, but prior to the band taking off, they were involved in the hardcore scene.
Did you ever think they'd be as... Go on, sorry, Steve.
Played a pub in Luton one time.
Yeah, I was at that one.
BDF.
And there was another
TLC
one.
played.
Which was the gig where he famously lost his clip on Fringe.
No way.
I remember everyone going mental about that at the time. Yeah, they used to play, like when they had the first EP out on Farrell's label, they were just playing hardcore shows for the most part, like the sort of burgeoning fringe white metal core scene that ended up kind of really taking off.
Did you ever think it'd turn into that like pin-up poster teeny girls going like that? He's like a pop star, isn't he now?
Yeah.
Did you ever think they'll end up they'll be that level, or
no, not at all? Because they were a heavy metal band, they were like metalcore, whatever. You never think that's going to get that big. Because if you'd have played me their most recent album back then, you would have been like, that's not Bring Me the Horizon. But they've changed a lot as a band, haven't they? So
I mean, they're playing arenas now, isn't it?
Yeah, they done 2 nights at the O2 at one point.
That's insane, man. Like that's absolutely insane. Do you still keep in contact with them, or?
No, I worked for them again last year, and then they fired me.
Are you allowed to say why, or you want to keep it?
I don't know why. I wasn't told, so I just got told fuck off. So there you go. Surprisingly, I'm not still in touch with them anymore.
So where do you go after them then? Because you've done some fucking name some of the bands you've done, because you've done some unique stuff,
not that
man.
Many. 30 Seconds to Mars is probably one of the other bigger ones I've done.
They're huge, aren't they?
That's it, mate.
Yeah. They like, I've never heard their music. What's their music like?
Shit.
That's Jared Leto.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Who?
Jared Leto, the dude who played Joker in
Shut up.
what Batman film is that?
Yeah,
Really?
he was in all kinds of shit. When
He was also
in,
the dude in American Psycho. When Christian Bale fucking
Kills him.
Plays Huey in the news.
Thin Red
shit,
Line,
man.
Fight Club. Yeah, he's doing a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
but yeah,
How was that, man?
it's interesting. I've had to sign NDAs, so I can't actually talk about it.
Yeah.
I can talk about the fact I work for him, but I can't actually talk about the ins and outs of it because I get sued.
All right.
Fair enough.
Give us the dirt, goddammit. We've got good lawyers over here, don't worry.
Yeah,
man.
sure you have. But yeah, no, you get around. You work for some bands that are bigger, some bands that are smaller.
Are you allowed, for putting that band to the side, just in general, are you allowed to share any wild stories? Because I was thinking, as a tour manager, right, your job has got to be to protect the artists as well. Because you got all these young girls running around, and you have to save the artist from himself, and at the same time, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
you don't want to get in a situation where accusations are being made, or is that pressure down on you as a tour manager?
A certain element of it, obviously, like planning the security of the show, making sure there's enough security guards. You're always going to go through a full security meeting a venue with, you know, the promoter, the venue managers, the head of security, all that sort of stuff, you often have to give a lot of security briefings to security guards. There's also, you know, like band members are going to do dumb shit though. You know, I've witnessed a lot of band members doing a lot of dumb shit, and there's only so much you can do to sort of save them from themselves with that.
Yeah.
You do what you can, but ultimately, if they're going to do something dumb, then that's on them.
Fucking hell, man. That's a lot of responsibility. I don't know if I would want to take that on, man, but it's...
Well, you know, money.
Money helps.
Yeah.
And you're on tour again tomorrow, aren't you? You're disappearing, man. You off with, what's the band called?
The Used.
The Used. I've never heard of them. You
Fucking
know,
they were big.
Yeah,
so I'm
they're
fucking
big.
an old man now.
You'd know their songs.
Sing me a song.
Probably from...
Yeah, Steve, sing a song.
Sing a song.
So here I am.
That's definitely one of them.
Oh, right. So, like, cool.
Yeah,
So, as I said,
That's the only one I know, to be fair.
When I said earlier on, that's the lead singer used to get Kelly Osbourne back.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
Probably not what he wants to be known for, but yeah.
You're Kelly Osbourne's
No, of course. I mean, yeah. I mean, he is an artist in his own right, but that's what I remember him for, being in the Used and going out with Ozzy Osbourne's.
Ozzy Osbourne, yeah.
Well, no, they're a lovely bunch of lads, actually. They're probably one of my favourite bands to work for, which is quite nice because I've worked for them for quite a while now. So they're cool. They're our old stage manager. He's retired now. He was in First Blood for a while. There's a hardcore connection there.
That's kind of cool.
But then, I think he had a big fight with Carl, and they beat each other up, and then he's not in the band anymore.
Oh, right. So Sheep's dropping some bombs, man. So Sweatfest, man. Let's get back to hardcore. Sweatfest. You doing one this year?
Nah.
So for those that don't know, Sheep used to do a festival called Sweatfest. I think you done two, right? You done one last year.
Well, I mean,
And
originally I
one
did it like my first one was like 2001 or something. And
was it that long ago?
Yeah, I did them back in the day, and then like it would be 3 years ago now, or before 3 years ago. There weren't really any fests going on in London. This was before Ready Eye sort of, you know, started taking things over, and Eddie down at New Cross. There weren't much going on. Obviously, Ninja Fest was sort of dead and not coming back. So I was like, oh, well, I'll do a fest then. Cool. There's not like one going on. So it's always cool to have a fest going, you know, like nice focal point for the year. So I did two, and they were cool. And then I just knew I couldn't do one because it would have been happening probably like next weekend, because I chose to do it in January, which is an awkward time of year to do a festival, but it's normally one of my least busy months, so I can like guarantee that I'm not going to be on tour, because I can't organise a festival and then not be there to do it on the day because I'm working elsewhere. So I picked January for that reason, and then I knew that I was going to be away in January working, and I've been away for the last 3 months.
So it's impossible to...
So I knew I just wasn't going to be around to be able to do a proper job.
Yeah.
And then the other reason I wasn't asked about doing it was that Ready Eye have suddenly started smashing it out of the park. And then...
It's not me, it's mostly Rich.
Turf wars, man.
No. It's fantastic. I love it because I don't want to do a festival.
Yeah, they do amazing.
I was only doing it because there weren't one. And if Ready Eye are going to be banging them out, and then obviously Eddie's doing Upsurge and Downsurge, and he's been getting some banging bands as well.
Yeah.
And,
like,
shout out
and
to them people.
Ola's now done Damage Done now as well. She's been doing it for a couple of years. Was it Damage Done last year, or has she always been doing it Damage Done, or has it just been changed to this year, the name of it? But anyway, she's...
Whatever, there's loads of fests now, whereas like three and a bit years ago, there weren't. And so now, I don't feel the need to do it, especially if I know that I can't do a good job because I'm going to be away too much in the run-up to it, and then also probably the weekend of the festival itself. So I was just like, well, I'm not going to do one 2020, and then it'd be nice if I'd like to do one, if I can find the right bands for it as well, because obviously the 2 years I'd done, like 2019 and 2018, they were sort of quite reunion heavy, the lineups. Bands that maybe people haven't had a chance to see or might not. And I don't want to completely focus on the 90s and it being only like an old band thing, but it would be nice to have that as an element of it and get decent headliners and that. So we'll see. If I can sort something out for 2021, I'll definitely do it again. It's not done, I just couldn't do it this year.
I was just a bit like, just quickly to touch on that, I mean, you're talking about bands and that in the older heads and the older crowd and stuff. When the breaking played, because I mean, I didn't really know too much about the breaking, I'll admit. I think as I got into hardcore,
They're really good, man.
yeah, the set they played was really good. But as I got into hardcore, it was a band that was out, but I'd never got into. I was into the Ruction sound and that. But there was a lot of people at the show, like, who I remember, like, you know, when you see a face and you're like, I remember seeing this dude when I, like, back in the day when I got into it. So it was really cool to see a lot of people who, especially from the Kent scene, on that Friday at the Ready Fest that we've done recently. So, like, yeah,
it's good that you bring that up, because I'm actually fucking pissed at you guys about the breaking. I tried so hard to get them. I was messaging them all the time, going, "Oh, you should play," and they're like, "Oh, maybe." And I was like, and then eventually they're like, "Oh, we can't do it." And then if you guys fucking announce, I'm like, "You bastards!"
Ready Eye Fest,
like,
man.
if you're gonna fucking come back and do a reunion, who are you gonna do it for, lads? Me or fucking Ready Eye?
I've got to thank Rich for that, mate. Rich fucking done some good work for that.
Got on his knees, did he?
Last orders are at a bar near you right now. But they've also just put out a split with Postal on Ruction Records. Find it at ruction.com and all your usual streaming sites. Well, go on.
Well, right out of time, man. I've got 2 quick questions I want to do to wrap this up, man.
Yes.
And one of the questions we have to talk, we can't end this podcast without mentioning some of the newer bands from up north, or the bands that have been holding it down, this newer generation. What's some of your favourite bands? I know you do a lot of work with Higher Power. Do you, like, I see you promoting stuff for them? And
I drove them on tour in the summer, because none of them could drive and the driver pulled out.
Oh,
so
really?
they needed a driver, so I did it. I was a lovely bunch of lads. Obviously, Higher Power was kind of doing really well, going out to America. The new album's about to drop.
cool.
I fucking love the Flex.
Yeah.
The Flex are fucking great.
They don't pay that much, do they?
No, but I wish they did, because they're bloody brilliant. To be honest, I'm probably the worst person to ask about up and coming stuff, because I spend 70% of my year away, and I miss most of all of the shows. Simon keeps telling me I need to listen to the new Cauldron. Apparently that's banging. The last 10 years, I will suck the dick of Repentance non-stop. That's honest to God, I think they're probably one of the best bands to come out of this country in a very, very long time. I loved Repentance. I'm bummed they're not playing anymore, and hopefully they will do a reunion at some point.
I reckon they probably... This is not me trying to endorse or going, "Oh, I reckon," and then they... Nah.
Yeah.
But at some point, I think Repentance will definitely come back. It's just one of those things that will call for it. And
they should do.
As you said, like...
They shouldn't leave it too long, though, because if they do, then everyone that liked them when they were around will fall out of the scene, and then no one will come. They should do it. Do it now, boys. Do it now. Do it.
Whilst the vegan edge is getting strong as well, like, it'd be fucking great time, especially a reunion show. Well, I don't like to call it a reunion, because it doesn't even feel like long ago since they broke up, innit? What was the last show they played? Was it that?
It was 2015, was it, I think?
Yeah.
2015 Carry the Weight, or maybe it was...
That's what I was going to say, they played Carry the Weight.
Maybe 2016.
Did they play the last... I didn't go, but did they play the last Carry the Weight? Or
no, they didn't play that. I think it was the year before they broke up, wasn't it?
Then, yeah.
Oh, I can't remember. It was at Tunbridge Wells Forum. I remember that. Yeah, they're good. But there's a wealth of great bands that are long established. You know, like Split Knuckle holding it down for Essex. Renounced are doing big things. Yeah, they're going places. They're doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I see that.
There's a lot of people, with the drive and doing stuff with the bands. It's cool because you remember, like, 15, 20 years ago, like, a band going out to tour Europe was like a big thing. And then, like, these days it ain't a thing. There's so many bands that go out and do loads of stuff.
It's great to see, man.
Renounced have got Vatican supporting them on there. They've got an American band supporting them, which is kind of cool, because obviously usually the other way around. So that's nice.
That is, man. That is fucking amazing to see, man. And but Steve's nodding at me because I'm running out of time. So unfortunately, after
we got one more question, we can do one more.
Yeah,
I reckon we can fit in one more quickly.
This was Lewis came up with this question. So, what are your top 5 albums ever? Ones that you would say shaped you as a person, changed your life,
or maybe not just albums,
made you the man you are today.
You maybe could mix it, bands and albums.
It's tough. I mean, all right, I'm going to leave the non-hardcore stuff out of it because this is a hardcore podcast. We just talk about
you can include it. We'll make it a top 10 and non-hardcore then.
All right,
Madonna.
All right, here we go. Chronological order, Nirvana. Like, actually, no. If we're going really chronological order, Spin Doctors.
If you want to buy me,
exactly.
I know one song.
The first band that I ever got into, like, you know, I bought all their albums, listened to them non-stop forever. Spin Doctors and Nirvana was a huge thing for me. Obviously, I got massively into grunge. Rage Against the Machine, which was the start of a political awakening for me. Like, that was the first time I was hearing about a lot of the topics that they sing about, and it was a game changer. After that, you're probably looking at Chokehold. Like, they were one of the first bands I got into hardcore wise, and like their lyrics and everything had definitely had a massive impact on me.
Did they play? They played back in. Did they play London? Did they play
no,
UK?
No, not back in the day. They played Sweatfest.
That's it. Yeah, Sweatfest, and you put them on. Yes.
Yeah, but the singer fell downstairs like 3 days before and broke all.
And you had to sing.
So yeah, me and a few people sang.
You had to sing. Yes.
It was kind of cool, but kind of not. Like, I would much rather have seen the full band properly. But then again, if you was told 16-year-old sheep one day you're gonna sing like half a Chokehold set, I'd have been
that was sick.
But I clearly wouldn't have done as good a job as he would have, so it would have been better to see.
He fell down the stairs?
Yeah, he fell down, at least like icy because it's winter over there.
Yeah, ain't one of them, you know what, I can't bother to go. Just tell him I fell down the stairs.
No, he proper, like, he cracked like 4 of his ribs and he weren't allowed to fly.
Oh, shit.
So hopefully they'll come back and I can actually, because I still don't really count it as having seen them play because obviously I didn't.
Yeah.
You know, like,
it
not
wasn't
really.
the real thing. It was, but it wasn't.
Other stuff, all-time greats. Satisfaction is the Death of Desire.
Hatebreed, yeah, man.
You just can't. It's just a perfect album. Like, even though that band's gone significantly downhill, that album, like, if I had a time machine, I could go back. The list of shows I'd want to see, I'd love to see them play like Connecticut or somewhere, like 96, 97, just when that album dropped and like them at the peak before all the Grebos started going.
I still think some of their stuff's quite good, to be honest, but
I mean, it's
not as good as the older stuff.
It's not even the music. It's just going to see them now. It's just like loads of metalheads, and
I know.
You can't mosh because you'll get into a fight, and then the stage presence is all very sort of like mainstream metal kind of oriented. It doesn't feel like you have the genuine sort of interaction that you get with hardcore bands.
Monster Energy and
they're a metal band. That's fine, but I still, Satisfaction is still an album that gets regular rotation. Jimmy Eat World are like probably one of my all-time favourite bands.
I don't really know this shit.
Just like easy to listen to, indie, whatever, emo indie stuff.
Jimmy Eat World.
Love Jimmy Eat World. Weezer.
What?
The first 2 Weezer records, the Blue Album and Pinkerton, mate.
Street.
What?
Why?
You're not going to sit here and shame me for listening to Weezy Jay-Z knockoff. Fuck off.
I love it. Got it in.
Weezer and Mint, and that's the end of it. I mean, I haven't listened to an album since Pinkerton, but the first 2 albums are untouchable.
Wow.
I never even checked.
I don't know. I didn't count. But it's plenty.
Yeah, that's about 10.
I was waiting.
No! Wait.
Go on.
Wait, one shameless one. I'm not even going to look at you when I say this. Time won't heal this.
Give me a kiss, guys.
Just you can fuck off for a second. But that album is still absolutely untouchable, and what it did for the scene. And everything, like it doesn't like just on the music sense, it would still be in the top, absolutely. But if you look at it as a whole and how influential it was to like my generation of hardcore kid and what that did, that's why I asked you to play it in full.
It still does.
It's relevant and it's just
really fresh, like
so that's absolutely a top one for me as well.
No, I appreciate it. It means a lot, especially coming like from yourself, man. Do you know what I mean? It means a lot, man.
Just before we wrap this up, and I know you're gonna laugh, maybe not, but while we're talking about influential musicians, I want to say R.I.P. Mr. Neil Peart from Rush, who's probably one of the greatest lyricists, greatest musicians of all time, who died a few days back.
Oh wow, rest in peace, man.
So,
how old was
very
he?
sad day for myself and millions of other people.
It was actually kind of interesting looking at all people's tributes. Josh done a lot of tributes on Facebook and that, and I don't know much about Rush, but I was just checking to do that, and I was looking at his drum kit, and I was like, fucking hell.
He had a big drum kit, didn't he?
Hell, man.
Yeah, it's definitely like
insane.
I've never cared for Rush or anything, but the number of people that really, really cared about him dying was,
Yeah, it was huge, man.
that caught me by
sad.
surprise. I didn't realise that would be such a big deal.
I often find that like grieving over a celebrity, I always find it a little bit ridiculous, but I've been fucking gutted, man. I've been really gutted.
Just one more thing, sir.
Did you vote in the election?
Yeah,
Who do you mind sharing who you voted for?
Labour.
We had a podcast, the last one, Xmas one, and we was basically, Lewis made a point. Do you want to about Labour losing a lot of votes from up north?
Yeah, they lost a lot of traditional.
I don't want to speak for him, but he had a point of view regarding it. What is yours? Why do you think they lost all these seats quickly when we're in the podcast?
Yeah, we ain't got much
Mate,
time.
it's such a complicated issue to try and throw in a quick question at the
We've got
end.
a Northern in there, so it'd be good to hear.
I think Brexit has obviously played a big part in it because there's definitely a percentage of Labour voters that are pro-Brexit and they will have switched because, you know, Labour was saying they were going to have a second referendum and people were worried about the outcome of a second referendum. And so if you are people, I think, were willing to abandon partisan lines, traditional voting lines to get Brexit done, a certain percentage of those. And I think I don't know if that's the only reason, because there's obviously been a lot of division within. I'm not a massive Labour fan. I don't really like Labour, but
Yeah, fair enough.
but compare them to the Tories, you know what I mean? That's like, you know, would you rather have your dick chopped off or your little finger chopped off? You know what I mean? That's the kind of choice I see. Like, they're not great, but they're a million times better than the Tories. So, yeah, I think without Brexit as a backdrop to the election, I don't think the Tories would have got the majority that they did.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
We basically pretty much said that.
There has been a lot of talk about the fact that postal votes doubled for this election, and there seemed to be a lot of very senior people in the media and the Tory party that knew the results of the postal votes. So there's a bit of a conspiracy theory going around at the moment that there's some rigging happened in that election. I'm going to leave it there because it is 1 minute to 10 and we got to fucking pack up.
All right, Sheik, man, I want to thank you so much for coming down. We know you're flying off again tomorrow.
Yeah,
And
thanks for having me, man.
You're
It's
a
been
true
fun.
friend, man. Shared some amazing stories, and I wish it was going on longer. Cause I got loads more questions, but
All right,
yeah.
have me back next year.
follow up
Yeah,
next year.
definitely, man.
Part 2 next year.
Next year, I mean this year. It's January, lads.
Next year.
Yeah.
Oh, next year. Okay, next year then.
Yeah,
We've got a year to go.
You can have too much of a good thing, Wayman, can't you?
Yeah.
You got to give everyone time to recover.
Yo, Sheik, thank you, man, and good night.
Good night.
Right.
Fuck Arsenal.
Hey!
You're listening to the Everyone But Us podcast, straight from the heart of London.